Welcome back to the SaaS Factor. Today, I'm excited to be joined by a longtime friend, Mike Noshay. He's an entrepreneur. He's got a strong track record of launching ventures, cutting edge healthcare, data, AI, everything you can think of. So thank you so much, Mike, for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Christy.
All right, so let's get kicked off. I know you've had a unique journey, very similar to Chris in a lot of ways, my husband. So you started off in Teach for America. You founded healthcare startups. Now you're building ventures and helping build ventures from the ground up. Can you tell us and take us back and walk us through how that path unfolded?
Yeah, memory lane. So I'm not from Tulsa originally, but I've been here 15 years. I'm going to go in the way, way back machine. Born and raised in New York, moved to the Midwest in Milwaukee when I was 10, did my undergrad in Minnesota, and the path was set. I was going to be a business consultant, and I decided to do something civic and joined the Teach for America ranks. It dropped me in Tulsa, and that changed the trajectory of my life forever, absolutely for the better. Got a chance to do some really cool stuff in the education sector, found my way into healthcare, got the great opportunity to have amazing co-founders and build and run a health tech company for close to a decade. And during that time, met my wife and had a couple of kids, and Tulsa really became rooted as my home. And over the last 18 months, I've been helping build and run a venture studio. And it's the new frontier, leveraging AI to solve all sorts of different challenges, mostly aimed at the labor workforce. It's been wonderful to learn and grow with all the different companies we partner with.
All right, Mike. So you're currently a partner at GetWit. Can you tell us a little bit about the mission there?
We got a singular mission. We help companies develop products and then build ventures as well. And that means we go in and try to solve really, really challenging human labor workforce issues inside corporations. Core to the way we look at the world is human behavior. And so just using technology to solve problems isn't the right way to go about it. You need to get really into the weeds, roll up your sleeves, and figure out how humans are trying to conduct their day. In every business, you could map out in a corporate boardroom all of the different challenges you think exist in the process that they run through. But when you actually watch people do the work, there's always low-hanging fruit that this new wave of technology affords the opportunity to automate. We often get pushback and say, hey, are you trying to get rid of my people? The answer is absolutely not. Our job is to supercharge those humans. How can we cut out the 20, 40, 60 worst percent of somebody's day, the redundant components of their daily lives, and then allow them to do what's uniquely human, be creative, develop relationships, and drive business growth forward. So we do that for corporations of all sizes. We work with some of the biggest companies you've ever heard of, all the way down to startups. And across that journey, we found this unique itch of ours that we like building things ourselves. And so we also have a venture studio fund where we leverage that capital to build businesses that we think the world uniquely needs. And that's usually at the intersection of finding challenges in the open world and finding customers, big and small, that we can take them to the next frontier.
So very cool. Yeah, I was going to say, so groups don't only just come to you, but you find different, ventures as well, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, the best way that we've found for that is talking about this new world. What are the foundations of AI, educating on specific use cases in different industries? We do that for large audiences. I think in the last week alone, I've done that for 150 executives. And more often than not, at least one or two of the attendees comes and goes, Mike, I really enjoyed the conversation. I learned a ton. You really need to talk with my spouse. They spend 8 hours a week doing this reporting function as a psychologist, and it's really grating on their way to build their organization. And through that insight of that person that has a challenge, we then go spend time with that significant other. We do our ethnography, which is watching them do their work, and through that process uncover something that can uniquely change the trajectory of their workforce. In that specific example, that's a real example. We built a company called Synth that takes all of the paperwork function of reporting for ADHD and autism spectrum disorder and takes that what usually took 8 hours to fill out the paperwork, and you can now do it in 45 minutes. Wow. And it's always through those, I like to say, random collisions that offer opportunities you wouldn't have thought about otherwise.
I like that term, random collisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, put yourself out there. If you're out in the world and you have meaningful dialogue and you share what's truly pertinent to you, what's at your core, there's opportunity to build things that you wouldn't have ever thought of.
Well, you've talked a lot about AI, and from your perspective, it sounds like you all are leveraging it quite a lot in everything that you're doing. How have you seen it help? And how are you kind of putting it into strategies? I know AI can be a scary word for a lot of people. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, a core portion of the education we deliver is at this intersection of CEOs saying, team, thou must use AI, and everybody in the workforce going, what does that mean? Because it really doesn't mean a
So
whole
true.
lot by itself. There's this unique thing that humans are doing right now, and we like to put it into two buckets. How do you leverage AI as an assistant versus how do you build agents? And the definition between the two is important. Assistants, I need to ask for something. So every day, dozens of times a day, I'm going out to tools like ChatGPT to help me restructure an email or take an investment memo and add in detail from a voice note that I present. Or I'm using GPT-o3's deep research to do industry analysis. I'm asking it to do something, and in many cases, it simulates some of the smartest people in the world and can synthesize that data so that way I don't have to do all of the digging to find what's there. That's a really, really meaningful way to get 5, 10, 15% efficiency gains and just take the grunt work out of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's different than agents. And that psychologist example I presented to you, that is a PhD smart assistant that's actually hundreds of agents behind the scenes that are specialized in doing a really important task. And they are experts in that task, and they interoperate and work with each other to ensure the complexity from start to finish in the process is done at a high level. So we look at it in two different ways. The publicly available tools are mostly assistants. In this new world of AI development, you have a really unique opportunity to build niche solutions that are agentic, that just get rid of massive portions of your workload without having to ask for it. Both are valuable. And the question is, where do you want to spend your time and energy, and what tools are at your disposal to help propel you forward?
I think that's cool to think about. A lot of people are scared of the word AI, right? And so I think they're scared of losing their jobs to tech, losing their jobs to AI. And with time, there's like that healthy balance between the human aspect and using tech to your advantage. It's at our disposal. So why don't you combine both?
So, Mike, what did that timeline look like as far as when discovery began and when you actually deployed a product for that specific team?
That's the other beautiful thing. I think from initial discovery to first customer using a prototype was less than 4 months.
Whoa.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
And that's not a fully hardened piece of technology that's ready for scale. That example synth, the psychological test from discovery from first prototype is 2 months. You can just move so much more quickly now than ever before. In that psychological example, it went from that initial prototype use into full production where we're onboarding clients now in less than 5 months.
Wow.
Like you can compress the amount of time and the value equation better than ever before. And so people go, technology is expensive and it takes too long. I mean, what used to take many millions of dollars and year-long waterfalls, you can do much more quickly. And because you can do it more quickly and cost effectively, you don't need to build these massive horizontal SaaS platforms. You can get really specific. I can build a tool specifically for psychologists and this reporting. I can build a tool specifically for home health nurses. And that's a game changer. That's not getting rid of human labor workforce. It's just doing something that really makes human capacity thrive. It just makes life better. So you're
Yeah.
not doing minutia.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I know we could talk about this for probably hours with you because I know all of us are tech nerds deep down in there and we want to just learn all the things about AI, but I want to switch gears a bit. So I know that you're heavily involved with the Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, as a lot of people know it. And so for you, how have networks like those contributed to your personal, professional growth over the years?
I'm humbled every single time I get a chance to spend time with other creators. And I say creators because business owners of all sorts. I learn from restaurateurs to people that build homes to financiers and technologists. Being able to take the little snippets from each and apply them to some portion of my life has been the greatest asset. More fundamentally, though, when I talk to anybody in their career trajectory, my number one piece of advice is buy the cup of coffee. Like, humans innately want to talk about themselves.
Right.
You buy the cup of coffee and you ask for perspective from them, they're willing to share. And it doesn't matter if that's when you're a member of EO or when I started my career, having no business placing some of the phone calls I did to try to learn from folks, especially in this part of the country. People are willing. Like, they'll sit down with you. Doesn't matter how broke you are, buy the cup of coffee. Don't let the other person do it. It's worth the $5, maybe 7 now with tariffs. It's really like that belief system of being deeply interested in how people have progressed in their journey has been the greatest asset to my life.
I love that, the buy the cup of coffee. I think that we sometimes devalue true human interaction, sitting down face to face. It makes a big difference. So, for those listening that maybe aren't in an organization like EO, what would be your recommendation as far as finding that community and finding that support?
There's meetups and think tanks. If you're in this region, go check out Gradient. It doesn't matter if you're an employee or an entrepreneur. Ask the people that are running those organizations for a connection. They will always make it. You may not get an immediate response to sit down and have it, but if you're persistent, it will occur. And there's got to be somebody in your world that's a couple steps ahead of where you are. Like, I oftentimes ground people I'm advising. You want to have somebody that's 2 steps ahead of you and somebody that's 10 steps ahead of you. You need both because they're going to give you different points of view. And if you can't find the 10 steps ahead, right, start with somebody that's 2, and that'll spiral into somebody that they know that's 2 steps ahead of them. So then you've got 2 and 4 as a degree of separation. And there is no easy button for building that network. I mean, I've been buying that cup of coffee for 15 years and I will do it for the next 15 more. And so long as you know that you may not get something out of the immediate engagement, but are willing to say, hey, it's an investment in my social future, then it's time well spent.
So, Mike, you're heavily involved in tech and all the projects that you're working on. Can you please tell us what is your all-time favorite tech tool?
All-time favorite? I mean, I want to go back to downloading music illegally, but that was probably the best.
LimeWire. Just kidding.
Today, I think these new wave of deep research tools, whether it's Anthropic's Claude or ChatGPT's deep research, they've made me an expert analyst. Everybody could do research, but it's painful. You got to know where to look and you got to spend the time synthesizing. And now I can go out to ChatGPT and say, I have a meeting with this company tomorrow. This is the person I'm talking to. I'm going to go in the drop-down menu and say ChatGPT 03 and click the deep research button. Say, pretend like you're an expert in the field that this company is a part of. Tell me everything I need to know to sound and act like an expert.
Smart.
Yeah.
So smart.
Very smart.
Working smarter rather than harder, for sure.
Exactly.
I've done it 4 times this week. Like, I'm just a nerd like everybody else. And I think the other thing that I challenge people on, the barrier to learning new things is 0 now. Like, use tools as a way to educate yourself. Things that I never thought I would have the capacity to understand. I can scaffold 3 or 4 questions and not be an expert, but be able to have a dialogue like this.
Yeah.
And that's a profound innovation for our world.
I know I've reached out to Mike and asked for his expert opinion on things before. And he's like, Christy, I can tell you, or you could just use ChatGPT.
And
I'm like,
it'll be better.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
I could just go use that. And then he's like, call me after and we can debrief, but use ChatGPT first.
And that's not me trying to push it off. I do that for myself. Like, I don't call my advisors first to say, hey, mentor, I did this research. I know as much as I possibly can. I've got this one thing that I'm still not clear on. Can you help me understand it?
Yeah.
And that's just a different dialogue than saying, teach me everything you know.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much for geeking out with us over tech. We appreciate you sharing your insights, your experience at the organizations that you're a part of. We look forward to having you on again soon.
Thanks, Mike.